Today I want to talk about electric buses. No, not those, these. The future of transit, but like everything transit related, much worse in America. The electric bus discussion has become much more important in Chicago due to a bill that was recently passed in Illinois, Bill HB 1342. The bill includes many sections intended to improve public transit in the Chicagoland area, though most propositions will provide little to no effect on service quality. Lots of lowered or free fare implementation, and the extension of COVID subsidy funds, which is really good and will likely prevent any further service cuts. The problem arises when we look at the clause provides that after January 1st, 2026, a service board may not enter into a new contract to purchase a bus that is not a zero-emission bus for the purpose of the service board's transit bus fleet, and amends the State Mandates Act to require implementation without reimbursement. So this is bad. Both CTA and PACE have a long way to go before electric buses become a large part of their fleet. Quick chargers have to be installed at the majority of bus turnarounds, and upgrades have to be made to the power grid to accommodate them. Additionally, most electric buses are still not guaranteed to be able to operate reliably, especially on CTA's most intense routes like the 9, 151, or 26. This bill could not have come at a worse time. Nova, which has been CTA's main bus supplier, recently announced the closure of their only production facility in the US, meaning no future orders of these buses would receive federal funding. Additionally, Proterra, which has been producing CTA's electric buses, just declared bankruptcy. The Proterras that CTA has already received have an inconsistent reliability record, where they did by far the worst in March, April, May, but actually did by far the best in June of this year. 74th Street Garage also doesn't seem too fond of running their electric buses outside of rush hour, which may allude to further reliability issues. And PACE has only gotten one electric bus, which hasn't even entered service yet. The 2026 deadline might not have been so bad if the CTA's fleet wasn't already so old. PACE's fleet isn't as old, but the agency is much further behind on electrification. CTA's 1000 series, 4000 series, and some of the 4300 series are falling into disrepair and need to be replaced. Even with the CTA's newest Novas, which will replace some of the old 1000 series, the remaining buses will still make up most of the CTA's fleet, totaling over 1,000 buses. If I were in charge of CTA, I would start with an order to replace all articulated buses, as the 4000 series are literally falling apart, with buses being pulled from service left and right, resulting in a current shortage of 60-foot buses. The buses would have to be XD or XDE 60s, as New Flyer currently has a monopoly on articulated buses in the US. It would also be nice to have a larger articulated fleet, as routes like the 9, 49, 79, and 155 would do well on them. These buses should also absolutely have 3 doors. We're talking about regular transit buses, not commuter buses. New Flyer would also be the best way to go for replacing the rest of the 1000 series. We'd probably need about 800 to 1,000 of those. PACE also needs to replace some of their 30-foot buses, which they're in the process of doing. In terms of electric bus models, New Flyer and Gillig are pretty much the only option. It seems like New Flyer's electric buses are supporting large sections of transit systems to a greater extent than Gillig's, so I would also go with New Flyer. And New Flyer is again the only option for articulated buses. There's also the option of converting existing diesel or hybrid buses into electric buses, which is much cheaper and, if reliable, will likely be what CTA and PACE will have to end up doing for the majority of their electric bus fleet. Both CTA and PACE need a larger fleet than they currently have if the city and suburbs are actually to become any less car reliant. This will become much harder and extremely unlikely with forced electrification. I, in fact, wouldn't be surprised if the CTA or PACE were forced to cut service due to a lack of working buses. It would have been nice if the state would finance this and allow for the purchasing of buses from outside the US. Many manufacturers in Europe and Asia make much better electric buses for much cheaper, especially companies like VDL, which have supplied the electric buses that currently make up nearly the entirety of Rotterdam's bus fleet. European buses are also just generally better when it comes to overall quality and the passenger experience. This, however, won't happen, as the law specifically mentions that electrification has to be done without reimbursement, because of course the state can't actually help its transit systems, it can only restrict them. Overall, the electrification section of this bill is forcing Chicago's transit to be too aggressive and likely ultimately sloppy. The American battery electric bus market is just not good enough for transit agencies the size and importance of CTA and PACE to rely on 100%, though that may change in the coming years. But really, there will be no environmental benefit to mining all the lithium for a battery just for the bus to break or get very little usage. A significant number of CTA's Proterras have been out of service for months, and even more only run an average of once a week, which is not that often. As I mentioned, the best way for transit agencies to become more environmentally friendly is to increase service, increase safety, increase reliability, and improve the overall rider experience, even if that means buying more diesel buses. Thank you for watching, and I encourage you to subscribe as well as check out some of my other videos.